Hey everyone, Sam Smyers here. You're watching Soul State, and today we're gonna go over how I mixed my song, Focus. I'll start with the drop vocals. I have 4 doubles, 2 to the left and 2 to the right of the same part. And let's see for the second half. I add some harmonies, which I don't have for the first part. That's the first one. Just doing a little thing like that can make your vocals have movement throughout the song. I was very intentional about I wanted the harmonies and I made sure they gave me harmonies. If I didn't have them, then it would feel flat and I have to figure out some way to add the kind of movement that I would want.
Yeah. Every minute I'm fighting for your attention. I know you see from back there, you know where I'm at. You're too bad at acting, your eyes I can't catch. Don't be so distracted, I'll help you with that. 'Cause all I want is you to focus on me. Yeah. Every minute I'm fighting for your attention. Yeah. 'Cause all I want is you to focus on me.
Some of the decisions that I made to making these vocals sound really powerful in the track is I made a lot of room and space for the vocals. I tuned them down to semitones.
I know what you want. Come over, let's talk.
Versus
I know what you want. Come over, let's talk.
she has a very high register when she sings, but because I'm doing deep house, we wanted to give it that deep sounding vibe. Whenever you detune things like that, then you're changing where they sit in the frequency spectrum. So that helped situate the vocals in a good space with all of the bass. I think the main thing is actually just cutting out, clearing out space from your mix to make sure the vocals have enough room to breathe. I'm just always making sure that if I'm doing any kind of EQing, I'm cutting out frequencies like here around 800, or I've got something around like 1.8 kilohertz. I'm always cutting out frequencies of my instruments where you usually have presence in the vocals. So anywhere from like 1K and upward, I'm always just like trying to be careful. In order to make a mix sound big, you want to make sure that you have a space for every single instrument. When you're building a song, you tend to put in a lot of extra stuff when you don't have the vocals. But then when you get the vocals, what you should do is take away a lot of the elements of the track that aren't contributing to those vocals. And that's what I had to do here. I had to take out a lot of things and just make sure that those vocals sit really nicely. When I hear amateur mixes or people struggling with vocals, they actually have way too much stuff on their vocals because they feel like, oh, my vocals aren't cutting through the mix. I have to do all this processing. I have to do all this distortion, but it's more about like, okay, take all that off, start over, put a few things on the vocal, and then work with all the instruments, because you just have to figure out like, how can I cut around these vocals? If I were to mute them, it would sound very empty. And then you throw in the vocals there. It sounds really big because I have so much space to allow those vocals to sound big. When you're mixing things, you only have a certain amount of space available. The best example for showing you how I cut some frequencies for the vocals would probably just be going through this instrument group.
My heart beats so loud, I can't turn it down. Both feet on the ground. Will you know it's love that I found? Yeah. My heart beats so loud, I can't turn it down.
I'm using some dynamic processing, especially around here. This is probably creating some space for the vocals. And then I'm actually doing a band here on just the left channel to create some separation between the left and right channel. If you're finding everything that I'm doing so far helpful and you like what I'm doing, then go ahead and check out the free vocal mixing cheat sheet that is going to be linked down below. And that'll help you mix your vocals and make them sound pro, just like this. A lot of the reverbs and delays, they can sound good in stereo, but then when you put your vocals all in mono, you realize that they're really just cluttering up a lot of that vocal. You could actually sidechain your reverb with your dry vocal. I'm using a Valhalla Vintage Verb Hall. It's about 2 seconds. That's a long reverb. I took that hall reverb and I panned it all the way to the left, and then I duplicated it, panned another one all the way to the right, and I adjusted some of the settings here on this EQ. You can see it's a bit different. And that'll give you some sense of width to make sure that you're not cluttering up the center of the mix. And then we can check out the sidechain here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear that, but basically when she's saying la and then after that stops, the reverb will come back into the mix. This is without the sidechain.
Yeah. Every minute I'm fighting for your attention. Yeah. Every minute I'm fighting for your attention.
That la should sound a lot cleaner to you with that sidechain on. For reverb on vocals, I always want to cut out a lot of the low end of the reverb and then the high end. Basically, this trick here is the Abbey Road Reverb Trick, where you cut off some of the mid-range and then some of the high range of the incoming signal before it hits the reverb, because that's going to sound different than putting it after the reverb. If you're having any particular resonances, they might not be coming from the vocal itself, but the reverbs. And you should always treat your reverbs like an instrument by EQing them. That's one thing that people probably don't do enough of. They put a reverb on and then they wonder why their vocal sounds all washed out. Well, there's a lot of things that you need to do to your reverbs. We solo these reverbs. Let's go ahead and turn off the EQ. I actually have a full mixing course, which I'll talk about later in the video, which you can also check out, and that'll be linked below, and that'll help you if you're trying to improve your mixing or get to that next level with your mixes. You can play this vocal dry and then put all the effects on it.
I know what you want. Come over, let's talk. I like what you got. Yeah. I know what you want. Come over, let's talk. I like what you got. Yeah.
I can talk about the basic processing that I usually do for a lead vocal. Usually low cut it, of course. Then I'll probably do some type of serial processing, and I'll just do like the vocal preset and then adjust some of the settings. Here, this VC2A, which is like the LA2A. I like to use a dynamic EQ.
I know what you want. Come over, let's talk. I like what you got.
Find resonant frequencies that are somewhat irritating and you can control them. I can kind of pick out certain phrases where maybe there's too much of a buildup of frequencies around 800 hertz or 3 kilohertz. And I'll just turn this off and we can check it out.
I know what you want. Come over, let's talk. I like what you got. Yeah. I know what you want. Come over, let's talk. I like what you got. Yeah. I know what you want. Come over, let's talk.
And then, of course, if you're doing any kind of pop vocals, always de-ess them. One thing I like to do on vocals is I use the CLA Vocals plugin, but I actually only use the treble and the compress.
I know what you want. Come over, let's talk.
That's it without. And
I know what you want. Come over, let's talk.
And using this plugin like this can really help add a lot of top end to your vocals. And then if I do any kind of wet processing meaning I'm putting on reverbs or delays, I'll do all of that in an audio effects rack. And I have automation on all of these delays here. I have some automation on the slapback delay. Just like be really creative with automation. All of the mixes that I do, they're from my bedroom. I'm in my room right now. This is where I do all my mixes, and my mixes on my songs. I mean, I have millions of streams on Spotify. That helps to know that I'm doing something right. And also the fact that other people want me to mix for them. I've spent the past couple of years learning how to mix on my own. It has been difficult going through all the YouTube videos and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And over time, I think I've finally figured it out. I'm finally making like mixes that I'm happy with. So I wanted to try to figure out some way to show others how to mix from home in Ableton. And I also wanted to show people how they can do this with stock plugins. So what I did is I created a course, a mixing course This is a digital course. It's 10 hours of content. There's 60 videos. It'll walk you through the fundamentals of mixing all the way up to how to put everything together. It'll walk you through every single plugin, compressors, reverbs, how they work. And there's also some bonuses involved. I'm just trying to help people who have struggled for a long time gain the tools that I have and the knowledge that I have learned over the past couple of years. And it's basically everything I know about mixing. I mean, whatever I showed you, like these are all things that are in the course in super deep detail. There will be a link at the bottom of this video to check it out. It is called the Modern Mix Academy. If you decide not to join the Modern Mix Academy, I actually have a vocal mixing cheat sheet, which is about 20 pages of PDFs. It has a audio effects rack that uses Ableton stock plugins only. You can put it on your vocal and get your vocal sounding good right away. And that's free. You can get that from the link below.